I am building a bucket vegetable garden, and the first thing I'm going to start with is mulch. And you say, mulch? What are you using that for? I started by punching holes on the bottom of my bucket. This allows excess water to drain through, but what will also drain through is your soil, and that's where the mulch comes in. I'm taking the mulch and I'm filling it into the bottom of my bucket, shaking out any debris that would fall out of the bottom, and I'm just going to keep adding mulch. You don't need a whole bucket of soil for your vegetables. In this case, this is going to be for my pepper plant. So I'm going to fill it up about a quarter of the way with mulch. Then I'll show you what I'm going to do next. Now that it's about a quarter of the way, you can see about a quarter of the bucket is filled based off the light. I'm going to come over here. I have another bucket, and I'm actually going to place it inside, and that other bucket is filled with water. I'm going to let that water soak into the mulch. I'm also going to spray it on top, fill it up with the water. I want to get this mulch nice and wet. The reason I want to get it wet is when I actually add my soil is so it doesn't absorb all the moisture from the soil and as I water for the first time. I use this same method with my vegetables, herbs, and perennials. I'll soak them in a bucket of water beforehand, that way they get moist, but I'm not pushing the dirt off by pouring on excess water on top. Water on the bottom. Then, place your plant into that bucket and let it slowly soak up the water in about a 10 to 15 minute period. It'll soak up all the water all the water it needs, and then none of the dirt will be pushed out. For my soil, I'm going to be using Organic Choice with compost, and I got these bags from Costco. They're humongous, they were heavy to carry, and I'm going to start digging in. My small container of compost, potting soil, not potting soil, but gardening soil. I'm going to break that up, and it's going to take a few more buckets. I'm going to fill it up about halfway, and that's when I'll start working with my peppers over there. I filled my pot up about halfway now, and I'm going to be doing Hungarian peppers, also known as banana peppers. You can see that it's just high enough, and if needed I could always add a little bit of soil on top, but let's take one of these out here and start filling it in. When taking out your plants, make sure to only pinch at the bottom. You can see it popped out really nicely. You don't want to pinch all over because then you'll break up the roots and break up the soil around it. It's good to do it at the bottom of the plant, but not, I'm trying to do this one-handed so it looks a little goofy. I'm just gonna let it fall in there. There we go. So, you can see really not much root to that one, but I'm gonna place it in here and then surround it by its compost soil. I'm going to put the tag off to the side. Save your tags. You always want to know what your plants are, what they need sometimes. It's always helpful. I'm just going to keep surrounding it with the soil. The soil's already moist. My plant was already moist. So it's so much easier when you have everything already moist. Because with watering, all it does is push the soil around. By having it moist, you just have to do a little bit of watering. I would say actually on the hose just use the mist setting, and then you don't have to worry about pushing your soil away from the plant or from the roots itself. A little love, little pressure. I can still see a little bit of the original soil right there, so I'm going to cover that up, give it a little push, pressure that down a little bit, And that's all it needs. I'm going to go through that whole process again with another bucket. After a few minutes, the peppers are done. If you look here, I added some friends here. Ground cover succulents. I showed you how I plant my peppers. Now I'm going to show you how I plant my tomatoes. I'm first going to start by, see these branches at the bottom? Well, for one, they're already dead. So I'm just pinching them off. And this one at the bottom too. Actually, there's two. These two at the bottom, I'm going to pinch them off as well. Gone. And this is my large red cherry. I'm going to pinch at the bottom. The soil's damp, like I mentioned before. It should just come out. There we go, all on its own. Get that out of the way. Then I'm just going to break this up a little at the bottom, loosen it up, and it sits about halfway into the pot. Let me show you next. What I did next was added my soil right to the base of where that stem was, and then I pressed the soil down a little bit to make it more firm. But you can see the plant is still halfway in the bucket. That's because I'm going to be adding soil all the way to possibly, I might pinch this branch off. I'm going to see once I start putting the soil on inside. But all of this has tiny itty bitty nodes in it. Those nodes will come out, become more roots, which makes the plant stronger, and you'll develop more veggies in the end. But I'm not done yet. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to give my tomato plant a basil buddy. I have 4 basil plants in here. I'm going to take one and put it on either side of it, and that'll be about right here. That's a good measurement. So I'll still put some soil on top, but basil's a good buddy to put with tomatoes. And who knows, maybe you can get your tomatoes to taste a little basil-y. These basils were extremely root bound, so I made sure to break up the roots on the bottom and just loosen them a little bit. That way they'll have a better time growing. Now let's fill this up with soil. As you can see, I buried it almost up to that next branch, but compact the soil around it a little bit more. I'm leaving it a little bit of room around the bucket. It's about 2 to 3 inches. As these grow too, I could probably give them a little bit more soil, but this is what I'm concentrating on the most, is I will give that more soil, my tomato plant. The final result is sweet cherry, early girl, of course basil, but sugar, sun sugar, which I'm excited about. That one is super, super sweet. And large red, which is about, sandwich sized cuts. Or in this case, burger. Using the mist setting on my hose, I'm just make sure to soak everything on top, just enough that it starts to seep down inside. And then I'll do this again in the morning, or anytime it gets a little too hot. What do I still have left to plant? My little eggplant fingers, my cucumbers, my peas or sweet snaps or something like that, cilantro, and a few basils, my tall sedums, and that is it. Thanks for watching Green Bee Explorer. If you follow me, you'll see the progress I make with my bucket garden and other parts of my garden as well. Comment below what you would want to do with a bucket garden, or raised bed, or an in-ground garden. What's your garden like? Have a great day and keep on growing.